July 10th, 1940. A warm summer evening over the English Channel. The sun is low, turning the water into hammered gold. Far below, convoy CW8, codename Peewit, steams east toward Dover. 21 merchant ships in 4 ragged columns, escorted by a handful of destroyers and trawlers. The men on deck are tired. They have been at sea for days. They have no idea that high above them, at 25,000 feet, 20 Messerschmitt Bf-110 bombers escorted by 30 Bf-109 fighters are diving out of the sun at 400 miles an hour. For the men on those ships, the first warning is the whistle of falling bombs. For the pilots racing to meet them, it is the frantic voice of a controller at RAF Ventnor. Bandits, Dover, Angels 25, 100 plus, scramble everything. This is the day the Battle of Britain begins. Not with speeches or declarations, but with the scream of Stukas and the sudden roar of 12-cylinder Merlin engines as Spitfires and Hurricanes tear down runways still wet from morning rain. For the next 112 days, the fate of the free world will be decided by a few thousand young men in open cockpits, flying 2 of the most beautiful killing machines ever built, the Supermarine Spitfire and the Messerschmitt Bf-109. Everyone remembers the Spitfire, the elliptical wings, the growl of the Rolls-Royce Merlin, the silhouette that became the symbol of defiance, but in the summer of 1940 it was still almost unknown. Only 637 had been delivered to the RAF by July 1st. Many squadrons were still converting from Gladiators and obsolete Hurricanes. Some pilots had never flown one until the week the battle started. The Messerschmitt 109 was a veteran. It had torn through Poland in 35 days. It had destroyed the Norwegian Air Force in hours. It had swept the skies over Dunkirk and crushed the French Armée de l'Air in 6 weeks. Its pilots had flown combat for a full year. They believed they were the best in the world, and they were about to find out what happens when the best meets someone flying something even better on their home ground with radar and with nothing left to lose. Pilot Officer Geoffrey Wellham is 19 years old. He has exactly 9 hours on Spitfires when he is posted to 92 Squadron at RAF Pembrey in South Wales. He remembers his first flight like it was yesterday. The ground fell away, the engine roared, and suddenly I was doing 350 miles an hour with the world spread out below me like a map. I felt like God. Across the channel, in a grass field near Ordembert, Lieutenant Helmut Wick of Jagdgeschwader 2 climbs into his yellow-nosed 109. He already has 14 victories. He is 25, handsome, confident. He tells his ground crew, "Today we finish England." Neither man knows that in less than 4 months, one of them will be dead, and the other will be a different person forever. To understand how close Britain came to defeat, you have to understand how thin the margin was in the spring of 1940. After Dunkirk, the RAF had lost almost all its experienced pilots and most of its aircraft on the continent. Only 700 fighters remained serviceable. Many squadrons were down to a handful of machines. New pilots were arriving with as little as 10 hours total flying time. The training schools were turning out boys who had never fired their guns in anger. Yet something extraordinary was happening behind the scenes. Reginald Mitchell had died of cancer in 1937, but his Spitfire was entering full production. Lord Beaverbrook, the Canadian newspaper baron turned Minister of Aircraft Production, had taken personal control. He stripped civilian factories, cancelled everything that was not a fighter, and drove the workforce until Spitfires were rolling off the line at Castle Bromwich faster than anyone thought possible. Women who had never touched a tool before were riveting wings. Teenagers were test-flying aircraft straight off the jigs. By July 1940, the RAF was actually gaining strength for the first time since the war began. But no one knew if it would be enough. The Luftwaffe had 3 air fleets poised across France, Belgium and Norway. Luftflotte 2 under Kesselring, Luftflotte 3 under Sperl and Luftflotte 5 in Scandinavia. More than 2,000 combat aircraft, 1,200 bombers, 800 fighters, a pilot force that had never known defeat. Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring was confident. He told his commanders, "Give me 4 days of good weather and I will finish the RAF." He would get far more than 4 days of good weather, and the RAF would still be flying when the autumn rains came. The first real day of the battle is not July 10th. That is only the opening shot. The day everything truly begins is August 8, 1940, when the Luftwaffe launches its first all-out assault on the British radar chain and the airfields of 11 Group. But before we reach that morning, we have to understand the invisible shield that made victory possible: radar. In a cluster of wooden huts and strange steel towers along the south coast, young women in WAF uniforms sit in front of glowing green screens. They are 20 years old on average. Many have never been further than 20 miles from home. Now they hold the fate of a nation in their headphones. At RDF station Poling near Worthing, aircraftwoman Daphne Goyle is on watch at 0500. The screen is quieter. Then suddenly a forest of blips appears, climbing out of Cap Grisnez. She presses the button and speaks the words that will be repeated thousands of times over the next months. Hello darky darky, this is Poling. Large formation building over Calais. Angels 15 and climbing. Estimate 100 plus. Within 4 minutes, the information is on the big table at 11 Group headquarters in Uxbridge. Within 6 minutes, every squadron in Kent and Sussex is scrambling. The pilots are still pulling on me wests when the first Spitfires are airborne. This is Chain Home, the world's first integrated air defense system. 29 stations from the Isle of Wight to the Shetlands. They can see 200 miles on a good day. They can tell height, bearing, and approximate numbers. They give fighter command something no air force in history has ever had: time. Without radar, the Spitfires would have to stand endless patrols, burning fuel and pilots. With radar, they can wait on the ground, engines cold, until the enemy is already committed. The difference is measured in minutes, but those minutes are everything. The Germans know the towers exist. They call them those damned masts. They just do not understand how they work. Goering believes they are only useful for navigation. He orders them left alone for the first weeks. It is one of the costliest mistakes of the war. Across the Channel, the Luftwaffe is gathering strength. At airfields from Cherbourg to Stavanger, pilots live in chateau and requisitioned farms. They swim in the sea, drink captured cognac, and write letters home boasting that England will fall by September. Adolf Galland, commander of Jagdgeschwader 26, smokes cigars and flies a 109 with a Mickey Mouse painted on the side. He has 30 victories already. He tells his men, "Remember, gentlemen, the English are sportsmen. They will fight fair. We will not." Helmut Wick, now promoted to major, leads the famous Richthofen Geschwader. He is the darling of the propaganda ministry. Every victory is filmed, every smile photographed. He believes the RAF is finished. On the British side, the mood is grimmer. Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding, head of fighter command, knows exactly how thin the line is. He has been fighting a private war for years against politicians who wanted to send squadrons to France. He refused. He kept his fighters at home. Now those fighters are all that stands between Britain and invasion. Dowding is 60 in 1940, tall, austere, nicknamed Stuffy. He never smiles in photographs. He writes letters to the parents of every pilot killed under his command. By the end of the battle, there will be hundreds of letters. His deputy, Keith Park, a New Zealander with a clipped moustache and a calm voice, commands 11 Group, the front line. Park flies his own Hurricane around the sector every day to see for himself. He knows every airfield, every pilot, every weakness. Between them, they have 4 groups. 10 Group covering the west, 11 Group the southeast, 12 Group the Midlands, 13 Group Scotland and the north. 11 Group will bear 95% of the fighting. 11 Group has 19 squadrons of Hurricanes and Spitfires on August 1st. It will need every one. The pilots themselves are a strange mixture. Some are regular officers who have flown since the 30s. Many are volunteers straight from university or public school. A growing number are sergeants, boys from council houses who joined the RAFVR before the war because it was a way to learn to fly for free. They live in requisitioned country houses or Nissan huts. They play gramophones until the needles wear out. They drink beer and write letters they never finish. They give their aircraft names. Kiwi, Donald Duck, Worried Wren, Fifi. They know the odds are terrible. They joke about it. A new pilot arriving at Biggin Hill is greeted with, "Welcome to the graveyard." Average life expectancy 3 weeks. But they also know something the Germans do not. They are fighting over their own homes. Every contrail in the sky is above a village they know, a girl they love, a pub they drink in. And they have the Spitfire. On August 8th, the storm breaks. At 0700 hours, radar picks up the first big formation. 40 Stukas escorted by 50 109s, heading for convoy CW9 off the Isle of Wight. 10 Group scrambles everything. Spitfires from Middle Wallop and Warmwell tear into the Stukas. The dive bombers are sitting ducks. One squadron alone claims 9 in 10 minutes. But this is only the warm-up. At 1000 hours, the main blow falls. 80-plus bombers with massive fighter escort aim straight for the radar stations at Dover, Rye and Pevensey. The towers take direct hits. Aerials collapses. For 3 precious hours, the screen goes partly blind. Keith Park refuses to panic. He keeps squadrons on the ground until the pattern is clear. Then he throws 12 squadrons into the sky at once. The fighting spreads from Portland to Dover. Spitfires and 109s twist and turn at 300 knots. Pilots black out in tight turns. Canopies shatter. Parachutes blossom like white flowers. By nightfall, the RAF has lost 19 aircraft. The Luftwaffe has lost 39. More importantly, the radar chain is already being repaired. By dawn, it will be working again. Goering is furious. He orders the attacks intensified. August 12th is the first true day of decision. At 0700, the radar station at Dunkirk, near Canterbury, is bombed flat. Then Ventnor on the Isle of Wight takes a direct hit and is off the air for 11 days. For the first time, the Germans have a hole in the screen. They pour through it. 80 bombers head for Portsmouth Dockyard and the airfields at Tangmere and Lyon-Solent. Spitfires from Tangmere rise to meet them. The sky becomes a maelstrom. Flying officer David Crook of 66 Squadron remembers, "We took off straight into them. There were aircraft everywhere. I latched onto a 109 and gave him a 3-second burst. He rolled over and went straight down. Then another one got on my tail. I pulled so hard I blacked out. When I came to, I was diving vertically with the sea rushing up. I pulled out at 50 feet and hedge-hopped home. Tangmere is wrecked. Hangars burn. The operations room is a crater. But the squadrons are already moving to satellite fields. The RAF refuses to break. That afternoon the Germans try again, this time against Manston, Lympne and Hawkinge. The attacks are so heavy that pilots land between bomb craters and take off again through smoke. By evening, the Luftwaffe has flown 1,485 sorties, the most of the entire battle. They lose 31 aircraft. The RAF loses 22. The margin is still holding, but only just. The next day, August 13th, Goering declares Adlertag, Eagle Day. He promises Hitler the RAF will be finished in 4 days. He launches 1,300 sorties. The weather is perfect. The Luftwaffe throws everything, and everything goes wrong. Squadrons get lost in cloud. Formations arrive late. Escorts fail to rendezvous. Some bombers drop their loads on the wrong targets. Others turn back early. Meanwhile, Keith Park plays his hand perfectly. He refuses to commit everything at once. He feeds squadrons into the fight piece by piece, always keeping a reserve. Spitfires from 11 Group tear into the bomber streams. Hurricanes from 12 Group arrive, just in time to catch the escorts low on fuel. By nightfall, the Luftwaffe has lost 45 aircraft. The RAF has lost 13. Goering's 4-day promise is already in ruins, but the cost to Britain is growing. Pilots are being killed faster than they can be replaced. Some squadrons are down to 4 or 5 serviceable aircraft. New boys arrive straight from training school and are in combat the next morning. At Hornchurch, Sergeant Ray Holmes has 8 hours on Spitfires. On his first patrol, he is bounced by 3 109s. He shoots one down, damages another, and limps home with half his wing shot away. He is 19. The pressure is relentless. August 15th, 16th, 18th, every day is a battle. The Luftwaffe keeps coming. The RAF keeps rising to meet them. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the balance begins to shift. August 18th, 1940. The day the Luftwaffe throws everything it has left in one final attempt to smash fighter command on the ground. The day that will later be called the hardest day. 0600 hours. The first raid is already forming over the Pas-de-Calais. 150 bombers, with 200 escort fighters heading for the airfields at Kenley, Biggin Hill and Croydon. Behind them, 3 more waves are building. Total sorties planned 950. Radar picks them up at 120 miles. Keith Park has 45 minutes warning, the longest he has ever had. He uses every second. 11 group squadrons are scrambled in waves. 12 Group is ordered south. 10 Group is told to cover the gap in the west. Even 13 Group in Scotland is put on standby. The first wave crosses the coast at Deal at 0730. Spitfires from 64 and 65 squadrons are waiting at 25,000 feet. They dive out of the sun straight into the fighter screen. Flying Officer Johnny Johnson, on only his 2nd combat sortie, remembers, "We came down like hawks. I got behind a yellow-nosed 109 and gave him a long burst. He flicked over and went down trailing smoke. Then everything exploded around me. I pulled up into cloud and came out alone. The sky was full of burning aircraft. Below, the bombers press on. Kenley takes 30 bombs in 5 minutes. The operations room is hit. Hangars burned. But the runways are only cratered, not destroyed. Within hours, civilian contractors are filling holes with rubble and steamrollers. Biggin Hill is attacked 3 times in 3 hours. The WAF quarters are obliterated. 29 ground crew and civilians are killed. Yet the squadrons keep taking off and landing between the craters. At Croydon, a civilian airport now used by 61 Squadron, the bombs fall on factories and houses around the perimeter. One bomb hits a shelter full of workers. 68 are killed instantly. But the RAF fighters are still in the air. At noon, the second wave arrives, Stukas aiming for the naval air stations at Ford, Thorney Island and Gosport. They are met by Hurricanes from 261 Squadron and Spitfires from 609. The Stukas are massacred. 20 fall in 10 minutes. The survivors jettison bombs in the sea and flee. By 1400 hours, the third wave is over Kent again. This time the target is Hornchurch. Spitfires from 54 Squadron rise straight through the bomber stream. Their commanding officer, squadron leader Prof. Lethart, shoots down 3 bombers in one sortie. Hornchurch is damaged but operational. The fourth wave, the largest, comes at 1700. 150 bombers escorted by 400 fighters. They split into 3 groups, one for North Weald, one for Debden, one for Hornchurch again. 12 groups famous Duxford Wing, 5 squadrons led by Douglas Bader is finally in position. They climb to 30,000 feet and dive from above and behind. Bader's voice crackles over the radio. Tally-ho! Lots of trade. Attack! The sky becomes chaos. 109s break formation. Bombers scatter. Parachutes fill the air. Sergeant Ginger Lacey of 501 Squadron, already with 12 kills, shoots down 3 in 5 minutes. He lands with no ammunition and half a wing missing. By nightfall, the Luftwaffe has lost 71 aircraft confirmed, probably 90. Fighter Command has lost 34, but only 10 pilots are dead. More importantly, every airfield is still operational. August 18th is the turning point no one recognizes at the time. The Luftwaffe has thrown its heaviest punch and drawn blood, but it has not knocked Fighter Command out. The German pilots are exhausted. The 109s are running out of spare parts. Experienced leaders are dying faster than they can be replaced. Goering holds a conference at his hunting lodge at Carrin Hall on August 19th. He rages at his fighter commanders. You are not attacking. You are escorting. I order you to fly close to the bombers. Adolf Galland famously replies, I should like an outfit of Spitfires for my squadron. Goering pretends he does not hear. From that moment, the 109 pilots are chained to the slow bombers. Their freedom to sweep the sky is gone. The Spitfires now dictate the terms of every fight. But the cost to Britain is almost unbearable. Between August 24th and September 6th, the Luftwaffe concentrates on the airfields again. 7 main sector stations are bombed repeatedly. Biggin Hill is hit 6 times in 4 days. The operations room is destroyed twice. The WAFs move underground into a butcher's shop in the village. At Debden, the runways are cratered so often that pilots take off across the grass. At Manston, the station is evacuated completely for a week. Pilots live in tents and fly from satellite fields. The pilot replacement system is breaking down. Training units are stripped bare. Boys with 8 hours on Spitfires are sent straight into combat. Survival time for a new pilot in 11 group drops to 2 weeks. Squadron leader Peter Townsend of 85 Squadron writes in his diary, We are tired to the bone. We fly until we cannot see. We land, drink tea, and take off again. There is no tomorrow, only today. Yet every morning the squadrons are still there. Women drive lorries full of ammunition through burning hangars. Ground crews patch bullet holes with canvas and dope. A 14-year-old boy at Kenley drags a pilot from a burning Spitfire with his bare hands and is awarded the George Medal. The nation watches and holds its breath. In London, people stand on rooftops to watch the battles overhead. White vapor trails cross the sky like chalk marks on a blue blackboard. When a German bomber falls, crowds cheer. When a Spitfire spirals down, there is silence. On August 26th, a new sound is heard for the first time, the whistle of bombs falling on London itself. A group of Heinkel 111s, lost in cloud, drops its load over the East End by mistake. Churchill is furious. He orders an immediate retaliation raid on Berlin. That night, 81 RAF bombers set out. Only 30 reached the target through cloud and flak. Damage is light, but the effect is enormous. Goering has promised the German people that no enemy aircraft will ever bomb the Reich. Now Berliners are digging neighbors out of rubble. Hitler is enraged. He orders the Luftwaffe to switch to terror bombing of London. It is the fatal mistake. From September 7th, the weight of attack moves from the airfields to the city. The pressure on fighter command eases. The sector stations begin to recover. Runways are repaired. New pilots get a few more days to train. The Blitz begins, but the Battle of Britain is being won.